Good morning. It's our unenviable task to follow what Seyon just did with Jonathan, but we'll try and keep it lively. We have really a topic that's at the core of the Doha Goals Forum, sport as a catalyst for youth. We've talked a lot about ways to encourage sports culture, to get people engaged in sport, and at the heart of this, in terms of the mission for this Doha Goals Forum, is how that sport and sport culture and getting youth involved in sport can really make a difference and to aid social development. And we have four very interesting people to engage in this conversation. Miguel CARDENAL is the president of the Supreme Council of Sports in Spain. He's an expert in sports law. He's on the competition committee of Spain's Professional Football League. Juan CEBRIAN is chairman of Grupo PRISA, president of El País, a very distinguished journalist and author. Vincent MERITON is the Minister of Social Affairs, Community Development, and Sport for the Republic of the Seychelles. He's also chairman of President Michel's Social Renaissance campaign. And since we're talking about sport as a catalyst for youth, we decided to actually radically have a youth representing the 4 billion youth of the world, but so there's no pressure on David. David SIGMAN, who recently graduated from Georgetown University, which many of you probably know is the alma mater of Dikembe Mutombo, who you met yesterday. And David is now working for the Washington Wizards, the NBA basketball team in Washington, and he's also active with a basketball academy in Kenya. Perhaps we could start with you, Miguel, and I'll tell you, if you have your headsets handy, Miguel is more comfortable speaking in Spanish, so we'll give him that privilege. Spain, over the last maybe 20 years since the Barcelona Olympics, I think, really has forged an extraordinary record that we're very familiar with in elite sport, in football and cycling, in tennis and basketball. How has sport spread through the culture, and how has Spain really engaged its youth in sporting activity?
Hola, buenos días. Realmente es una pregunta que nos tiene que invitar a reflexionar en España, porque es cierto que hemos conocido a raíz de los Juegos de Barcelona.
This is a very important question, and we have to think about So we saw so many players shining, and we saw a lot of kids being involved. We made use of what the kids have, or sort of what the good players have done. And we have to contemplate upon the fact that if you have good models to be followed, then you can engage the youth in a better way and improve the engagement of the youth from 20% to 60%. And I believe that interest in sports among ladies is less than that of the male guys. I believe that a lot. I think that many female sportsmen believe that they cannot be up to the standard. We got some information that might help us enhance or give a psychological boost to the kids. 40% of those who've been surveyed, they were against the judgments of the referees.
En esas franjas de edad, por ejemplo, descubrimos que es muy importante fomentar el diálogo familiar y que ahí se presentan problemas. Hemos empezado un programa con las federaciones no olímpicas, hay una gran asociación de federaciones no olímpicas en nuestro país, que ellos nos propusieron, que se llama, lo han denominado Deporte en Familia, y consiste en organizar en municipios jornadas en las que esa experiencia deportiva, esa atracción que el deporte tiene en la gente joven, les sirva para fomentar también el diálogo con sus padres y poder tener ese ambiente de...
So we have to encourage the youth to play football or to practice sports. So the educational environment is also important, and sports in schools is important, and that might help you shine in sports. They don't have to think about sports results, but also kids have, or the young people have to think about their educational process. And they have to find, there are so many objectives that can be achieved. So there are the equality of chances, and at the same time we are in our government, we aspire for equity and fairness among the sportsmen and sportswomen. So sports for those who need to practice it. Even we take into account also the Paralympics. We take the sportsmen with handicaps, the handicaps also into account. So we think
to kind of encourage that activity, and then to also use sport to aid the development, the social and economic development of your country.
Thank you very much. I think you will all have appreciated what Sean Garnier just did. And try as he wanted, Jonathan Edwards could not repeat that. It takes time and a lot of dedication. And I'm sure that yesterday, those who witnessed the videos here, let us take a little-known Johanna from Namibia.
Yeah.
When she won 200 meters, it was her country's first ever gold medal at a Paralympic Games. Take the same Veronica Campbell-Brown, when you could feel the power that she was giving out, and she won that 100 meters just by a hair. And the same for Wilson Kipkete, and when he powered down to break that world record. I think it takes us on a very intense emotional journey, and this does not come easy. It comes with perseverance, with training, with dedication, and a lot of discipline. Now, you ask about Seychelles. We also are very passionate about sports. We are not yet known on the international sports scene, although on the continental side, we have left our mark. For example, in badminton, in weightlifting, and in women's volleyball. We have really been at the helm. We have clinched gold at different championships. But the Olympic medal still remains elusive. Now, what are we doing? We are only 90,000, the smallest country probably represented here. And you may say, 90,000 people. We have the morphology. We have this mix. We are a country, very proud as we are, to have blacks, whites, Chinese, and Indians all come together in that melting pot of culture, that identity that forms that individual that really can, when we apply ourselves to doing whatever we do, we excel. In sports, we are not bad. At the regional level, let me just bring you back 4 years ago, in 2011, 3 years ago, in 2011, we also have in the Indian Ocean our own regional Olympic Games. It is called the Indian Ocean Island Games, grouping 7 countries, the largest, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, the Comoros, the Maldives, and then tiny Seychelles. We staged the 8th edition of the Games in the Seychelles, 12 disciplines. We came out second, just one medal short of Reunion. With hindsight, now we know that had we been a bit wiser and applied ourselves more, we could have gotten 4 more goals in judo, in athletics, and in badminton. So there is a will, and you ask, how can we use sports as a catalyst for youth? It is not only in elite sports, but we believe at the stage of development where we are now, just a reminder that we survived the economic crisis 5 years ago. We were on the brink of bankruptcy, but with the IMF, we made it, and today we are a reference. We also want to be a reference on the social aspect through sports, and this is why we believe that it is not only elite sport that is important, but sports for the masses. This is why we need to bring the lessons, the values of sports, not only on the pitch, but to the classroom. Discipline, perseverance, in the communities, in the homes, for people to use sports as a way of life, for healthy living, bearing in mind that, unfortunately, 60% of our population is obese or overweight. So sports here is the way forward. Sports is the savior. And I think the strategies and the policies of my ministry, together with the Olympic Committee, is ensuring that we do not only excel at the elite level, but also sports at the base, for people to engage in sports as a way of life, as an everyday doing.
Juan Luis, we've heard about the great system and the sort of platforms that have been developed in Spain, but the media plays a big role, not just in Spain, but in around the world in getting this message across and sort of promoting sport, not just as a healthy activity, reducing obesity, but having a broader role. How can the media play a positive role, and do you see ways in which today's media maybe plays a negative role as well?
So, well, I would like to add to the intervention of the minister that we invested a lot of money before the Olympics in '92. So the big success in '92 and 2 decades after with so many gold medals and good sport men and women in elite sport is because we invested a lot of public and private money. So the companies and the big corporations have been very involved through sponsorization or advertising or whatever, And media has played a very important role. A lot of money going to the sport activities coming from the television rights, from public and private televisions, and there is a big competition for that, At the same time, there is a lot of foundations connected with media and connected with the universities that try to educate the people, both in the sport and in the normal activity of education, So it's a big change in Spain. When I was a child, there were 3 things that we call the 3 Marias. There was gym, religion, and political indoctrination. There were the things that no one in my country was paying attention at that time, in the 50s and 60s, Now sport is like music for youth. It's the main way to globalization and to socialize the universal meaning of being part of the world. It's interesting to see also through the media the political influence in the political life of sport. You see, Catalonia is now debating about the potential independence of Catalonia. But no one believes that even if Catalonia will be independent, which is something I don't believe in it, but even if that will happen, no one believes that Barça could be out of the Spanish league, And they say, well, we will be independent.
There's not going to be a Catalonian league, and it's
no,
going to remain
there
the
will be
Primera
a
Liga.
Catalonian Spanish league,
Right,
so
right.
The media is playing a main role on that. We have sport sport newspaper, which is us, which has more than 10 million unique users. Close to half of them they are in Latin America. We have launched an edition in Chile now of this sport paper. And the other, our competitor Marca, is very well known in Latin America too. So we are becoming global citizens through sports.
So your sport paper with 10 million uniques, how does that compare to El País?
País has 17 million.
Okay,
uniques,
so
you know?
the general news still gets
But
more.
it's fair to say that sport in media is gaining more and more place, you know, and we are seeing that, crisis affecting the general newspaper is not so big in the sport newspapers, both in terms of advertising and circulation. And the combination of radio, television, and newspapers promoting sport is something that approaches the young people to the general news too, you know.
David, if I could turn to you, so hearing these descriptions of both these national efforts and Juan Luis talking about the role of media in that, does that resonate with you? I don't want you to speak for all of youth, you're one youth, but how do you see sport as a lever for these broader issues?
I first want to say it's an absolute honor and privilege to be here, and it's also fantastic to be sitting with these fine gentlemen. I think media for youth is the key to really opening the doors for young kids to see the opportunities and the types of sports that they can play. I have a sports-based initiative in Nairobi, Kenya, and I went down to Nairobi to see what was going on, to meet the people there, and what I found was that there was a lot of interest in sport, but there was no access to basketball courts or soccer fields. So for me, I felt that I needed to create a framework in which basketball federations and sports federations could really, from a grassroots level, create opportunities and places in which young kids can play. And I think media shows kids, what they can do and what they can aspire to, become. There's a kid in the crowd today named Glory Cassie, and he is a fantastic kid. He's from Lagos, Nigeria, and I've been speaking to him all year, and we've been trying to get him involved in basketball, and his biggest issue is he just cannot find a court near him. And the closest court is 25, 30 minutes away, and he has to pay his week worth of wages just to get to the court. And I think that the access to sports facilities and sports stadia, particularly in developing countries, is very, very vital to the development of youth.
Well, if Bobby Sharma is here, he's going to be speaking later today on the New Frontiers. He's active in the creation of the Nigerian Professional Basketball League, so we clearly need to connect them. Miguel, you spoke about the general system. Spain right now has a terrible problem of youth unemployment, particularly. Are there any ways that this development of sport and the engagement with sport can maybe alleviate some of that? It's a bigger issue. I'm not saying sport's going to solve it, but can there be a healthy interaction there?
Sí, desde muchos puntos de vista, ¿no? Por supuesto que el orgullo.
So to belong to a country which is known for its success in sports necessitates that we find solutions for as a president of the association where I work, and with the financial crisis in 2008, all the companies suffered a lot, and that affected the revenues of the companies, and the number of the participants did diminish. So Spain, it's the country of sports, and it's a reference in the world. we have about 60 million tourists. They come to Spain to watch the games, and this brings a lot of money to us, and this helps us alleviate the effects of joblessness and unemployment. This means this is very important for the unemployed, and we have some statistics that show that these revenues are very important to our economy, and some figures show that we have sold a lot of bicycles for the tourists. The economic crisis. So there are so many sponsors also that are doing their best to lift the pressure on the youth who are not doing well. There are many facilities also in Ukraine and in Brazil.
Okay, thank you. I want to open it up to questions, so we'll get our place. But before we do that, I'm curious. Do any of you think we talked about a little bit about the economic potential, but what about sport and the role it can play in sort of broader social cohesion? I wonder, Vincent, is that something? Youth, particularly in difficult situations, in situations where there's a lot of youth unemployment, can sport play that societal role?
Indeed. Before that, I'd like to highlight the fact that investment in sports, the sports infrastructure and program, should not be underestimated. In the Seychelles, for example, we have 27 districts. And here I'm talking about each district having 3,000 inhabitants. In each district, we either have a sports, a football field, or a multi-purpose court, basketball, volleyball. It is very important to give the youth a platform for them to play, for them to spend the endless energy and come together. And I think this in itself will bring families, because when you have kids playing, their families will want to come and support them. So I think it is critical, and every cent expended in sport is investment in the future. It is investment in the youth, it is investment in the health of the people, and investment in the stability of the country. And by the way, we have very, very, very low level of youth unemployment, about 2%. So it is something we are working well. Bear in mind, we have only 90,000 people and 40,000 non-sexual working in the country. So if we want to use another idea, if we want to use sports as a catalyst for youth development, certain guiding principles need to be laid down. For example, there is this adage that winning at all costs, and that the end justifies the means. We all know that. But in sports, it should not be the case, because the athlete, the high-level athlete, the way he trains, the way he conducts himself, the way he performs, it's his journey. It says a lot about him. It is not only the results and medal, but the way he does it all along. And I think we should be able to get, and the media here should be able to play a positive role in bringing the athletes, the elite athlete, as a role model, because millions of young people look up to them. I think it is very important that if we want to use the sports as a catalyst for youth, that we send out the positive messages.
Okay, I don't see any hands, so I'll just ask each of you very briefly, because the clock is running down, in one sentence, what do you see, from a policy point of view, maybe from a media point of view, also policy, and then from your perspective as someone starting out at the beginning of your career, what is the single thing that you think could help catalyze youth and engagement in this?
Creo que aprender a la participación en una sociedad.
The sport and
heroes and the icons for youth in most of the countries. And because that, they have a big responsibility that they don't fulfill always. And that, I think, is a big thing. So there are so many scandals leading with tax evasion or things like that in the professional clubs, etc., that I think we should to take care that those icons, those idols of youth, should be responsible in other performances of their life. I mean, they are heroes not only because they are very good players, they are heroes because they represent a human behavior, you know. Then people like Nadal or Pau Gasol are very good on that field, you know, because they fulfill not only their duties as sportsmen, but their duties as human people and as citizens that believe in social responsibility, cohesion, and so on. You know.
Right.
I wish
Vincent.
we had more time, but in
Yeah, of
concluding,
course.
let me say that sports is one of the most enjoying, meaningful, and unifying activity in life. And I think the more we bring sports to the youth, the better it is for the families. Let sports bring happiness to the families so that we have better social stability and cohesion, so that we can fill our lives with happy moments, not just the long years. This is what we are here all about. Thank you very much.
David?
I think accountability is a huge concern, and that would be a catalyst in the form of a sports bill. I think every country should have a sports bill that focuses on grassroots development and really growing, from the ground up and focusing on the youth. And yes, it's a long-term solution, and there may not be immediate ROI, but I think that there needs to be accountability on the side of the Ministry of Sports and on federations and for sports to create a sports bill or a sports act and follow through and really not leave the youth behind.
Great, thank you. David, Vincent, Juan Luis, Miguel, I wish we had more time, but thank you very much.